Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to talk about one of the most important and foundational libraries for data visualization in Python that's known as Matplotlib. So we'll learn how to create basic plots, and we'll also learn how to customize those plots. In our previous video, we've already covered the logic behind each and every plot, and the plots essentially depend on the data type. Here, we're going to look at the practical aspect of it. If you're new to this channel, you may consider subscribing and hit the bell icon so that you continue to receive the updates. Also, after watching this video, you may want to refer to some of the playlists that we have created for people who are interested in in-depth knowledge. These are the videos in the right sequence, which will give you thorough knowledge of the subject. Please share it with all others who might benefit. Let's get started. So we begin by first importing Matplotlib, which is the library that we're using. And we're also checking the version of this library because it keeps on getting updated. Let's see what version of Matplotlib we have on our Google Collaboratory. So it's 3.7.1, which is the latest one. So let's start creating these plots one by one. We discussed when we're dealing with a univariate variable, that's one variable, and it's numerical in nature, we will create histograms. And we have a couple of other choices like boxplots, etc. But let's first create a histogram. Let's say we've taken some random data, which is just a list of numbers. And using this list, we are going to create a histogram. So we've already imported Matplotlib. It's not needed to be imported again, but we specifically called a module within Matplotlib, which is known as pyplot. And in short, we are calling it as PLT. This is our data, and we are creating a histogram. So PLT gives us access to hist, which takes the input as the data, and we are mentioning the number of bins. So histogram is basically binning the data, numerical data on the x-axis, and on the y-axis, it gives you the count. X label, what should be displayed on the x-axis? It will say value, on the y-axis, it will say frequency, and the title would say histogram. And this plt.show is actually optional for Google Collaboratory and Jupyter Notebooks. If you don't write this, it may also print the memory location. Let me disable this and run this, and I'll show you what exactly does it do. So see, here's a histogram that we got, and it is showing us a distribution between 1 to 6. Why? Because the minimum value in our case was 1 and the maximum value was 6. And it has divided this into 5 bins. So 6 minus 1 divided by 5. What would that be? That will be a width of 1 for every bar that you're going to see here. A width of 1 for every bin that you're going to see here. So maximum value minus the minimum value divided by the number of bins you've chosen. And that's why it has created 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 bins. You can see there is some additional information being printed here. And that's because we have not used this plt.show. Let me now use plt.show and rerun this code. So now you see that additional information that we saw has disappeared. That's the only advantage of using plt.show here. In some of the IDEs or integrated development environments, though, it is mandatory to use plt.show. But like I said, for the most common ones like Jupyter and Google Collaboratory, it's not mandatory anymore to use plt.show. As a habit, we're using it consistently. Let's move on to creating a box plot. Now we're trying multiple ways to generate our data. In the previous example, if you saw, we used a list to create our data, and that's how we created a histogram. Now we are using NumPy library's random module, and within that we are using this rand_n. This generates the data as per standard normal distribution. What is a standard normal distribution? A distribution which has a mean 0 and standard deviation 1 and follows the properties of a normal distribution. How many such values we are generating? 100 values. If you see, prior to this, we have written another line which says np.random.seed0. What does this do? This is done only to ensure reproducibility, so that when I come back and refresh this code, it should not give me different numbers. So the seed as a number 0 is not very important. You can pass any number here. It will only ensure that when you refresh your code, you'll continue to get the same output. So here is our data, which will be an array of 100 numbers which follow standard normal distribution, and we are creating a box plot. So last time we used hist, this time we're using the box plot, and we're mentioning this is our data. Then we are mentioning the X label and the title, and we are doing a plt.show. Let's see what happens. So here is a box plot that we got, right? Once again, if I do not do this plt.show, what will happen? Let me run this. You can see it's printing some additional information about the plot. Now let's move on to the categorical variable. We are talking about just one variable, and the visualization option that we're discussing first is a pie chart. Generally, a categorical data is a data on which arithmetic operations don't make a lot of sense. So we will create a simple data on which we'll try to see how we can create a pie chart. In order to create a data, we will be importing the library called pandas. Pandas is famous for its data frames, basic structured data format, just like the way we see in spreadsheets. Our data is very limited. What we are saying is that we want to display some values, and we are, let's say, displaying some counts. Then we are displaying some index labels like male and female. These are the gender labels, and then we are displaying a column name which is called passengers. So in a way, we are trying to create a data which talks about passengers, And passengers could be from two categories, males or females, and these are the counts of those passengers. In order to put this together, we'll be using data frame from pandas, where we need to mention the values, we need to mention the index and the columns. Index here would represent the row label. Let's run this and then we can actually look at the output. So this is how the output comes. As you can see, we have passengers. This is the column. We have these as the indices. These are two levels, males and females, and these are the counts of these. Would you say these are two variables or just one variable? Well, so far it's just one variable because we just have counts related to gender. Imagine in a large data set, you could have one feature or one column which has just two categories, males and females. If you do something like a value counts on that column, it'll display an output like this. And that's what we need to create a pie chart. This is how the syntax goes. So we have given some kind of a customization related to the output size. Pie chart is symmetric. We can try to alter the size accordingly. But the main syntax is that from the Matplotlib library, we are calling the .py, in which we need to give the input as the feature, which is the passengers column, and we need to mention what are the labels. So on the pie chart, what are the labels you would want to display? You would want to see males and females as the labels. This auto PCD is utilizing a format specifier to instruct the Matplotlib as to how the percentage values are supposed to be displayed on the pie chart. So if I just break it for you, this percentage symbol is called a format specifier. It's the beginning of a specific format. This 0 is a kind of padding, that's what we call it. So let's say we end up getting a percentage which is 5.2. It'll display it as 0.5.2. That's just a padding. Even if you don't write it, that'll be fine. Then this 0.2 that we are writing with an F alphabet is indicating that we want a floating point output that has to have two decimal places. And thereafter, we have two percentage symbols again. So this first percentage is format specifier. If we want to show a percentage symbol on the pie chart as a literal, we have to write two percentage symbols. That's the whole idea. So if we will run this, it'll properly display the percentage values allocated to males and females on the pie chart. And we've also given a plt.title. Let me just run this and then we can look at the output. So you can see the output. Why do we get two decimal places? Again, because we have mentioned 0.2f. If I change this to, let's say, 0.3f, it'll start showing three decimal places to us. So here's the representation of one variable on a pie chart, which is suggesting what's the proportion allocated to both the genders. It's used for quick comparisons in terms of proportions. For the same kind of data, we can always create a count plot as well, which will just show us the raw frequency. So let's say we look at a slightly different data. We have people who have their educational qualifications as graduates, postgraduates, high school, and diploma. And these are the counts of these people. Once again, these are not two variables. This variable here, Y, only represents the count of the X's. So these are not two separate variables. We are deciding a figure size. Again, this would require a bit of a trial and error at times, but we've decided it to be 7,5. Let's move to the bar plot. If you remember, we wrote a hist in case of a histogram, box plot in case of a box plot, pie in case of a pie chart. Likewise, there's a bar where we are just going to look at the counts. And we are giving it a color, which is blue, and X label, Y label, title. Figure size, we've already mentioned, so it may not be necessary again. And we are doing a plt.show. Let me just run this. This is the count plot that you see. Now, you may be wondering, how do I see the labels here? Because it may not be so easy to get to know this value exactly. We will talk about it in the customization piece. As of now, just see this as a count plot. We are dealing with a univariate scenario and a categorical variable, and these are the counts. So what can I say? We can say that majority of the people in this data seems to have diploma as their highest qualification, followed by people who are postgraduates, then high school, and then graduates. Let's move to the next category, which is pairing variables. Essentially, we are moving to the bivariate scenario. So when we have to pair a numerical variable with another numerical variable, we've discussed that we'll be creating scatter plots for this purpose. We are generating our own data this time. We are not reading the data from anywhere. So what we are doing is we are setting up a seed. Why setting up a seed? Just some time back we discussed, because setting up a seed helps us ensure that we get the same values whenever we refresh the code. And we are generating some random values. Last time, if you remember, it was a rand-n, which was a data following standard normal distribution. This time, which was the data following a standard normal distribution. This time, it is just rand, which means these are going to be just random numbers between 0 and 1, where 0 is inclusive and 1 is exclusive. And then we are multiplying it by 10. So what does it make it? A number between 0 and 1 is multiplied by 10. Can I say that number would now be belonging to 0 to 10, where 10 is exclusive? So these are our X values. Because we are creating a bivariate, we'll also need some Y values. And Y value we are creating as per a linear equation, which is 2 times x plus 3 plus some noise. Now, what is this noise? When you studied regression in your course, you'd realize noise is something which is random in nature. So we are generating some random, normally distributed data, which has a mean 0 and a standard deviation 1. How much data? Same as the length of x. So this is a noise element that we are just adding to the output of 2x plus 3. This would generate some y values, which would not be exactly falling on the same line. Why? Because we are adding a noise here. And now all we are left with is we'll use blt.scatter. We have set a different figure size here, and x label and y label and titles. Let's run this. See, so we didn't get all the values falling on the same line. Why? Because there was some noise added that deviates the points a little bit here and there. But if you see, in general, we can say as x increases, y seems to be also increasing. Like I said, this will be discussed at length in the topics like regression. Let's move to the second bivariate scenario where we are pairing a number with a categorical variable. And we discussed for these purposes, we can again use conditional box plots. How do we do it? Let's generate the data first. Since we are generating the random data, we are once again setting up a seed. Now, actually, it is not necessary for every cell that you write random.seed. If you would do it once in the notebook, it will work. But just to emphasize, because you may not be creating all the plots together, we are repeating this code every time. What kind of data frame we are creating? We are creating a column called team A, where we have these values. These are random integers between 20 to 50. And how many random integers are there? 30. And for team B, we are again generating some random integers between 40 to 70. And how many random integers are these? These are 30 random integers. We are creating a box plot where we are passing this data, this kind of a table as the input. And we are mentioning the labels would be these columns, df.columns. X label would be team, Y label would be score, and the title of the plot will be box plot by groups. Let's run this. So if you see, you got team A and team B on the x-axis. X label is team, Y label is score. Let's say these were some numbers of two teams. These were some scores of two teams, and we had 30 scores of these teams. That's what we seem to have plotted. So which team seems to be doing better? Team B seems to have a pretty high median compared to team A. Moving on, let's look at the tricky one, which is pairing two categorical variables. So once again, we are generating some data. Let's say it has two columns, selected and rejected, and these are the frequencies. These are some numbers. We did not generate it randomly this time. We didn't want to spread like a box plot. We just wanted some frequencies. So we've just put some values like 40, 70, and 10, 60, and we are converting it into a data frame where the index labels or the row titles will be site A and site B. Let's see how this output looks like. So site A, site B are the row titles, and these are acting as the columns. The easiest way to create the data frame is through a dictionary. And when you pass the key value pairs like these, it actually keeps the keys as the column titles. Now what we are doing is that we are doing a sum by axis 0. What does it mean? It's going to add the values like these, 40 plus 70, which will be 110, 10 plus 60, which will be 70. And then we are dividing this entire data by this total of the column. So what would happen? Through this axis 1, we will divide this 40 by the total of this column. We will divide this 10 by the total of this column. So on 70 by the total of this column and 60 by the total of this column. So what we'll get would be a normalized data frame. Let's see. So you see, these are adding up to 100%. And this is again adding up to 100%. Why? Because we took a total and divided each value here in the column by the total. That's why we have a normalized data frame. Now, this could be a bit of a tricky code, but just follow along, you'll be able to understand it. So we have categories like selected and rejected, and we have some normalized rows. We are taking the row when we say log of the index title, it is going to give these values 0.36 and 0.14. When I say log of site B, it's going to give 0.63 and 0.85 and so on. Now, on the x-axis, we will need the positions for the bars. How many bars do we need? We need the number of bars as per the number of categories that we have. So when I say np.arange length of categories, how many categories we have? We have 2 categories. So it's going to create 2 places on the x-axis. On which, what are we placing? We are placing the first bar, which contains the x value, these values, and values 1. What are values 1? Values 1 are 0.36 and 0.14. Then on top of it, we are creating another bar, which will contain values 2. What are these values? 0.63 and 0.85. Finally, we are putting the x label, y label, and also using a legend. Because we will have different categories, it will be important to identify them by the color. You'll just see that in a minute. And also we are putting specific x ticks where we are mentioning that these are the x values that we have. We want them to be displayed as not 0 and 1, but with proper category titles like selected and rejected. Let's see what is the output that you get. So you can imagine this number is 0.36 and this is 0.84. This is 0.85 and this is that 0.63. That's how the height is representing. We first created the bars which were belonging to site A and then created the bars on top which were belonging to site B. That's how our table was. Site A and then site B. and this is how you got the output. This legend thing has brought this color coding here so that by the color itself, we can figure out that blue represents site A and this orange represents site B. And the Xtick thing, if you see here, has given us the customized labels. Otherwise, it would have said just 0 and 1. So this is the stack bar chart. Now, we talked about the fundamental charts. And in this process, in this exercise, if you realized, we learned a lot about generating the random data using NumPy or generating some data frames using pandas, and we use that. Of course, when you read a real data, let's say a CSV or an Excel or from some other source, you will not have to worry about generating them. You may just have the data available, you'll put it to an appropriate format, and you'll continue to use it. Next, we are going to talk about customizing the plot.